You ever have one of those mornings where you're just settling in, coffee in hand, thinking the only thing you got to worry about is whether the creamer's gone bad? Yeah, that was me out on the porch of my mountain lodge, birds singing the valley still asleep, when out of nowhere a convoy of SUVs comes barreling up my driveway, headlights blazing like I was hosting the Daytona 500 horns blasting, and this woman decked out in enough jewelry to buy a small island leans out screaming about someone chilling the champagne wrong. That's when I knew my day was about to get a whole lot weirder. See, I built my whole life around solitude, just me, a dozen old cabins, and the sound of wind in the trees. But here comes this parade, and the lead car screeches to a stop. Out steps Karen. Yeah, the kind of Karen who treats customer service like a personal battlefield, heels digging into the gravel, waving a stack of papers like the Queen of Sheba, shouting that she's reserved the whole lodge for 100 guests. Now, I don't know what universe she's living in, but I've got 12 cabins, some bunks, and a kitchen that might on a good day serve up enough to feed a scout troop. She hadn't reserved squat. I set my coffee down, wasn't about to let her army roll over me, so I marched down, shut my heavy gate with a thud that shook the valley, and just like that, Karen and her posse were my uninvited guests. You ever see 100 overdressed strangers dragging Louis Vuitton through mudmen in polos looking for the valet kids losing their minds over 0 bars on their phones? The look on Karen's face I'll never forget, like royalty forced to camp with the peasants. She shoved some confirmation at me, looked like it was printed in Comic Sans from mountainlodge.net, and I almost lost it laughing. No reservation, no contract, just a fantasy cooked up in her own head. Now the guests started realizing something wasn't right, whispering, some annoyed, some flat out angry. Karen tried to save face, talking big about deposits, waving a made-up story about cash given to a manager no one's ever met. Meanwhile, her daughter, the bride-to-be, apparently looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, clutching her phone, whispering to a friend that she begged her mother not to do this. Honestly, the poor girl looked like she'd been dragged through a hedge backwards. While Karen barked orders unpacking luggage, demanding spa treatments, I just leaned against the fence and watched the show. The men grumbled about missed tea times, women griped about their suitcases, and one kid was already crying for Wi-Fi. Karen whipped out this laughable schedule, champagne yoga at sunrise, lobster brunch, karaoke under the stars. Her own daughter snorted. I let her unravel. Sometimes life hands you a front row ticket. And then, as if on cue, the weather joined the circus. A storm warning flashed across my old Ranger radio. So now not only were they not getting their luxury retreat, they were stuck. My gate shut, the storm rolling in, and 100 very cranky guests with nowhere to go. Karen's anger turned inward. She screamed at her husband, threatened lawsuits, ranted about rights. Her guests grew restless, grumbling that they never paid or only came for the free luxury weekend. The bride confided in me, telling me this was all a PR stunt for her mom, but the wheels were falling off the whole thing. That's when I figured I'd twist the knife. Karen, you didn't book a lodge, you booked a disaster. The only thing you're paying for is the entertainment. I told her, got a few nervous laughs. Karen, red-faced, demanded I open the gate. But with the storm blowing in, leaving wasn't an option. She was trapped in her own illusion. Now you'd think that would be enough, right? But Karen doubled down. She strutted around showing off a laminated itinerary spa suites, which were just bunk rooms with grandma's quilts, champagne brunch spoiler, no catering. And when someone went looking for a bar, they found my tool shed. Even her daughter, by this point, just rolled her eyes and retreated to the porch. The group started fracturing. Some demanded answers, others just gritted their teeth. That night, the storm hit full force. People crammed 2, 3 to a bunk. Others slept in cars, fogged up windows, batteries dying. I stepped outside in the morning, coffee in hand, surveying the wreckage, mud everywhere, people wrapped in blankets, some openly mutinous. Karen, undeterred, declared that the schedule would continue, waving her binder like a royal decree. The guests just stared at her, half asleep, probably wondering if this was some twisted social experiment. She tried to put me on the spot, demanded I, as the owner, execute her plans. I just sipped my coffee, shrugged, and told everyone the truth. No spa, no staff, no catering. Just me, my coffee pot, and a couple raccoons smart enough to steal your lunch if you weren't careful. A few laughed. Some grumbled, and Karen lost it, blamed the storm, insisted the caterers were delayed. Her authority crumbled fast, especially when her daughter finally stood up and admitted she never even wanted this retreat. Her fiancé wasn't coming, and this was all her mother's power trip. At breakfast, I led them into the kitchen, opened the pantry, and offered what I had: eggs, flour, a rusty skillet. The horror on their faces, priceless. Karen tried to salvage her pride, yanking the pan from my hands, but ended up dropping eggs on the floor, my dog lapping them up while half the guests were doubled over laughing. And right then, a couple raccoons wandered in. Chaos ensued. People shrieked. Karen climbed onto a table. Let me tell you, nothing humbles a crowd like wildlife raiding brunch. Midday brought another twist, a fresh storm. Warning: the generator died. No lights, no Wi-Fi, just the flicker of candles. Some guests tried to sneak out, got stuck in the mud, and I had to tow them back. Karen, ever the general, spun it as teamwork. But the ship was sinking. Factions formed, people argued over bunks like it was Wall Street. One guy, a surgeon, argued he deserved the best bed. Another countered he drove the furthest in his Tesla. Yeah, that happened. Karen, meanwhile, kept trying to deliver speeches about adversity bonding, but every time she got going, something happened. A bird pooped on her shoulder. Her heels snapped. Her daughter groaned audibly. By the fourth day, it was a madhouse. The storm raged. Food was scarce. The air was thick with mutiny. The guests started siding with the daughter, treating Karen like a dictator on the verge of being overthrown. It got ugly. She tried blaming me for everything, even accused me of kidnapping her guests. I just laughed it off, told her the only hostage was my peace and quiet. But the real turning point: her daughter for the first time stood up and announced she was canceling the wedding her mother tried to force into existence. The room exploded with applause. Karen, livid, climbed on a chair, shrieked that she was still in charge. Nobody listened. The sheriff finally arrived, and Karen threw herself at him, accusing me of fraud and kidnapping. The sheriff, a local who's seen every scam in the book, flipped through her evidence, handed it back, and called her bluff. He even told the crowd about her history: fake charity galas, botched retreats, the whole scam revealed. Her final act was to try to bribe the sheriff. When that bombed, she begged my cousin, the handyman, to open the gate. He called her out loud enough for the room to hear. Her credibility gone. The guests rallied together, roasting marshmallows, joking about making "I Survived Karen's Lodge" t-shirts. Even the bride started laughing for real. When the storm finally broke and the roads cleared, Karen tried to rally everyone for a farewell breakfast, binder held high. I handed her a cup of instant noodles. The laughter was deafening. That's how she went out a queen, reduced to the jester. When the last SUV rolled away, Karen was left alone, binder to her chest, shrieking at the sheriff, at me, at the sky. I opened the gate, watched her drive off, tires spinning in the mud, her empire of delusions collapsing behind her. The valley was quiet again, the storm just a memory, and me, well, I finally finished my coffee, thinking, if that's what passes for a retreat, maybe next time I'll just put up a sign: "No Karens allowed," you know what I mean? So tell me, if you were in my shoes, locked in a lodge with 100 angry guests and one Karen losing her crown, how would you have handled it? Was I right to let her unravel, or should I have called it off sooner? Share your take below. Let's hear your best lodge nightmare story, or where you stand on who is right and what justice really means when the storm finally clears.